Chris Perla, class of 2012, is going to be our student speaker tonight. And he's going to talk to you about the impact of what the scholarship and what this program does for kids. I understand that very well. I obviously went to Serra High School, but there was a young man who had gone to Serra High School who passed away tragically in an accident. And his parents decided, to honor him, they wanted to give a scholarship for someone to come to Serra High School. And they had a daughter who was a teacher at my junior high school in San Mateo, College Park Junior High School. And the daughter said, would you give it to a minority student? And so when I came to Serra High School, my mother made me take the scholarship, okay? Came to Serra High School. I was one of 4 African-American students in this school. If I didn't have this foundation, if I didn't have what Serra High School gave to me, the opportunity, regardless of my skill set, may not have ever presented itself for me to be in the position to have a scholarship to go on to college. And so Chris is going to come up and talk to you about the importance of what we are all doing here tonight. Chris?
First of all, I think we need to give a round of applause to everybody that helped set up and cater this wonderful event, especially these men over here, Serra Padres, that helped us tonight. It's crazy to think that 2 years ago, I was actually one of these guys helping out at these events. And now, 2 years later, I stand here before you speaking, so truly blessed. But good evening, everyone. My name is Cristobal Perla. I'm from the class of 2012, who many say is the best class that has graduated from Serra. But I know that alumni here tonight that would disagree with me on that statement. I'd like to start by saying how honored I am to be here tonight, to have an opportunity to speak on not only my own behalf, but also on behalf of the students who have been blessed to receive Funded Dream Scholarship money. When Mr. Lund called me a few months ago to speak at this event, I'm not gonna lie, I immediately got some butterflies in my stomach, because I knew that Funded Dream has featured some very important alumni, including Tom Brady and Hall of Famer Lynn Swann, who's here tonight. But at the same time, I had no doubt in my mind I could reject an opportunity to speak and give back to the school that gave me so much, including the opportunity to attend the University of Redlands. And I am blessed to play soccer, the sport I love so much, at the collegiate level. None of that, of course, would have been possible without the help of Serra and people who consistently fund the dreams of students here. I remember my freshman year, Mr. Edward Taylor gave the traditional speech, "What it means to be a Padre." For those of you who don't know Mr. Taylor, he's one of the best teachers and mentors at Serra. He signifies what it means to be a Padre, and he lives to see each and every student succeed. He tells every freshman when they get to Serra that the Undertaker, the WWE wrestler, is his best friend, and that they hang out all the time. But to this day, I'm not sure that's true, so I'm gonna have to find him tonight and clear that up. Anyways, I remember in his speech, he began by saying, for those freshmen who think that just because you got accepted here and you sit here before me, you're Padres, let me be the first one to tell you that you're not. We all looked at ourselves at that moment wondering, like, what is this guy talking about? I'm pretty sure we're already Padres. But as my 4 years at Serra went on, I slowly began to realize what he meant that day. A Padre is more than just a label. It is a man of action, one who lives out the traits of a true man, a man of faith, wisdom, service, community, and leadership. By the time I graduated, I reflected on the key Padre characteristics and realized I'd become a man that held each and every one of these attributes. But it took various experiences throughout my 4 years to develop those attributes. Community. The simplest way for me to define community is brotherhood and the alumni and families who are part of the Serra community. This is something that I believe is truly special and unique. I fully came to understand what it means to be a part of the Serra community after experiencing the most unfortunate event that happened in my life. I still remember that day like it was yesterday. It was a normal Monday morning when the voice of my dad slowly got louder and louder from the living room. He yelled at me to wake up, but like a lot of us here tonight, waking up early on Monday mornings isn't the easiest thing to do. After snoozing the alarm a few times, I finally woke up. But soon I realized I had awoken to a silence in my home that just didn't seem normal. I went into my living room, and the following image I saw will be an image I will never forget in my life. The image I saw was my father collapsed on the living room floor. I immediately tried communicating with him, but he couldn't. As each second passed, he became paler and paler, sweating uncontrollably, unable to move. He was paralyzed from the head down. It was terrifying to see this strong male figure in my life all of a sudden in a state of such weakness and vulnerability. No one else was home that morning, so I immediately called 911. The whole time I couldn't believe what was happening. I was just waiting for that moment for someone to wake me up from the nightmare that was unfolding before me, but that moment never came. It was real. My father had suffered a serious stroke that morning. Doctors told my family and I that if I hadn't called 911 so quickly, he could have been in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. It was a miracle that he was able to recover the way he did. Maybe it was the fact that he's only 38 when he got the stroke. Although physically it looked like my dad was going to be able to recover, a portion of his brain was severely damaged. This impaired his speech to the point that he had to learn how to speak and write both English and Spanish all over again. Having my father alive was the greatest blessing, but nevertheless, the news was devastating. For people who knew my father, they knew that my father's ability to influence people with his words was truly a gift from God. So as you can imagine, not being able to speak was extremely frustrating for him. My dad could no longer work and support his family the way he used to. Therefore, I began to worry about my future as a student at Serra. At first, I thought that I could keep what had happened to my family to myself and try to deal with it on my own. Yet it didn't take very long for my fellow Padres and teachers to realize something was up with me. I remember my counselor, Mr. T. Megan, who is here tonight, pulled me aside in the hallway one day and said, "Chris, something's up with you, man. You haven't been the same Chris. The Chris that usually walks around the hallways with a big smile on his face, always in a good mood. Something's up with you." He was right. That conversation made me realize that I couldn't go through this alone. I had to drop my pride and depend on the support of my Padre community. Opening myself up to that support was the best decision I made in my life, because I quickly realized that there were a lot of people out there who cared about my family and me. I truly felt at that moment that I was a part of a bigger community of Padres who were there for each other. It was a community I knew I could always lean on. Faith. Not one day went by at Serra where I was not reminded in some way or another how important faith is in a young man's life. I remember a poem about Jesus called Footsteps. I first heard it at a mass, and ever since I've looked to it whenever I feel overwhelmed, especially after my father's stroke. For those of you who haven't heard it, a man is walking on the beach alongside Jesus, and across the sky are the scenes of his life. The man notices that for every scene in his life, there are two sets of footprints in the sand, one from himself and the other from Jesus. Then he notices that during the difficult and sad moments in his life, there was only one pair of footprints. So he asked Jesus, "Why is there only one set of footprints when you promised to walk with me all through my life?" Jesus responded, "During those difficult times, I did not abandon you, for it is then when I carried you." Lessons like this, one, developed my faith at Serra. Faith that helped me get through the difficult moments of dealing with my father's stroke. The moments where I felt so frustrated that I couldn't have a full conversation with my own dad. Or when I had to balance all the aspects of my life while at the same time balancing the new responsibilities of being the man of the house. The moments where I would just lie there in my bed at night asking myself, why me? What did my father do to deserve this? Yet my faith in Lord Jesus Christ and my Serra community kept my head above water. My father having a stroke at such a young age wasn't fair, but my family became closer because of it. That's what I'm grateful for the fact that I never felt alone because of my faith in God. Wisdom. The wisdom I gained at Serra resulted from various situations. The discipline I learned at Serra enabled me to become more responsible, which helped me balance all the aspects of life, which is something very critical in the life that follows high school, especially in college. At home, I embraced my new responsibilities as the man of the house, and at Serra, I developed new levels of maturity and responsibility. Not only did this help me deal with things at home, it kept me focused on graduating and getting to college, which at the end of the day I knew was going to make my family the happiest, especially my father, who had made so many sacrifices for me. The Padre Brotherhood is unique, and it is fostered every day. We live in a world where there are all sorts of different personalities, races, and beliefs. Serra was where I learned to accept others and listen to each and every one of my brothers in order to become closer to them. I became much more confident in myself. I learned to speak and express myself effectively. A great example is tonight. My freshman year, I would have never been able to speak in a room full of people like this, let alone write an articulate speech. However, through the wisdom and confidence I gained at Serra, I stand here proudly before you, speaking in front of many prominent alumni, sharing all my personal experiences. Service. I don't think there's one Padre in this room who doesn't have an example of how they contributed to their community. Service is one of the most important things Serra instilled in me because it took the focus off myself and redirected it to those around me. Whether it was working at a local shelter or delivering gifts to impoverished families during the holidays, what made service worth it was to see the smile on people's faces and seeing how kindness and compassion could affect people around us. In high school, we learned that the simple act of using one's gifts to help others was also a form of service. So my service included being a part of a championship-winning varsity team with Coach Jeff Panos and all the countless hours of hard work and commitment. Not to mention I had my fair share against the Bellarmine Bells, so that's always a great accomplishment for an athlete here. The unselfishness Serra instilled in me was what pushed me to become the best support system I could be for my family. There are times where I easily could have hung out with my friends or leave for the weekend to go play at a soccer tournament. But I knew that family came first. I had to be there for them no matter what. And by the end of my 4 years, I had made unforgettable memories with my friends and also got a scholarship to play soccer at a wonderful school. I can look back now and say I was there for my family, something I continue to do each and every day. So right now, I have one request: if everyone could just give my family over here a round of applause. My mom, Myrna, my father, Walter, and my younger brother, Esteban. And if it weren't for them and my Lord Jesus Christ, I wouldn't be half the man I am today. Leadership. Naturally, when one is accepted to Serra, he is held at a higher standard. He's expected to be a role model for the rest of the community. That by itself is a responsibility that pushes each Padre to become a leader. I accepted that responsibility when I became a Serra student here. And on top of that, I was the captain of the Serra soccer team my senior year, which allowed me to develop an aspect of leadership I never knew I had. It pushed me to lead by example, both by action and by speaking words of encouragement to my other teammates. I also led a spiritual retreat called Kairos, which was introduced during my junior year. It is a remarkable spiritual retreat that is life-changing. Kairos encourages Padres to develop a spiritual bond through God and brotherhood. I had to open myself up and trust my fellow Padres, which took a lot of courage. But it made me that much better of a leader, because a leader is only as good as his followers. The leadership skills I fostered at Serra prepared me for my new leadership role at home. As I stepped into this new role, I already had a sense of the kind of man I needed to be. I had to look after each and every one of my family members, especially Esteban, my younger brother. Although my brother is 6 years younger than me, he's almost as tall as me and says in a few years he'll be able to beat me up, but I'm not so sure about that. But each day, I made sure that he knew I was there for him. And as a leader in my household, I had to stay positive and make sure everyone knew it was going to be okay. Although bad things might happen in our lives, we need to stay strong for the people around us to make sure that we always move forward. A motto that our founder, Father Juniper Serra, believed in: siempre adelante, always forward. I would like to close by saying this. It is because of nights like this and people like yourselves here tonight that students like me even have the opportunity to be successful. I would like to thank Mr. Bill Piedamonte and his family, who are here tonight, for helping to fund my education at Serra and for currently helping other Serra students. I'm so grateful for people like Mr. Piedamonte, who, like everyone else in this room, wants to see Serra Padre succeed. I stand here an example of how Fund a Dream can significantly impact a student's life. Fund a Dream helps students continue their education at this remarkable institution and strive for their dreams. Life isn't always fair, and I know I'm not the only student at Serra who has gone through difficult times. However, we are so lucky to have an outstanding community to support us during those difficult times. I speak on behalf of so many students who have been blessed to be a part of such a courteous and loving community. I'll never forget that moment I threw up my capstone into the air with 200 of my other brothers to celebrate our graduation on the steps of St. Mary's Cathedral. A moment I know that is so special for each and every Serra family. Or the moment where I looked my parents in the eyes and said, "Mom, Dad, I did it. I got into college." I have an unforgettable high school memories and have made lifelong friends. I wouldn't trade my 4 years here at Serra for anything in the world, and I am honored to call myself a Padre. Thank you for being here tonight and believing in the dreams of high school students. Thank you, and may God bless.